Hi, my name is Maya, but you guys know me as Horrorjabi. I'm a TikToker who makes scary type of videos and horror and true crime and all of that type of stuff, but you are now on my YouTube channel.
You're so golden.
Okay, so before I begin with my entire video, I want to bring attention to what happened on August 4th in Lebanon, the explosion that happened that I posted about on my TikTok. I want to bring attention to it. I want to make sure everyone's informed about it. So down below, I'm going to link a link that shows you and teaches you what happened in Lebanon and ways you can help, whether you're living in Lebanon or outside of that. So without further ado, let's move on. Okay, so today's gonna be my first true crime video on my channel and I'm really excited. So this video is gonna be long, but very entertaining to you guys. I'm gonna be talking about Ted Bundy, the most notorious serial killer of all time. And I'm really excited because his story is kind of really weird and really fun to talk about. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so for those who don't know, Ted Bundy was the most notorious serial killer of the 90s. He was born in 1946. His killing spree started in 1970 and he was executed 1989. So basically what I'm going to be talking about is his entire life story, starting with his early life, his education, his killing spree, how he was caught, and his death. So beginning with his early life, Ted Bundy's mom, her name was Eleanor Louise Cowell, was 22 when she had him, with an unmarried man who she is actually unsure who he really was, but she thinks he was this Air Force dude that she knew and had a relationship with. But because she had him when she was so young and unmarried, that brought shame upon their entire family, because their entire family was religious and belonged to the church and stuff. So it was really shameful to her family. So he grew up as the adoptive son to his grandparents. Now here, I'm not sure if he grew up thinking his grandparents were his parents, or if the entire town thought the grandparents adopted him. But yeah, so it was shameful, it was all that, so he had to grow up differently kind of. And then when Bundy was 5 in 1951, his mom married Johnny Bundy, which Ted took his family name from. But Tendy had little to no respect for Johnny, because Johnny used to stick his nose in all Ted's business. Ted didn't really like him married to his mom. So although they had no relationship and he had no respect for him, Ted took his last name. Now, Ted, at an early age, he started showing weird signs and stalker characteristics. Like, he had an obsession with knives as a kid. He liked macabre, which is basically something that, he's so disturbed or afraid of death, which is kind of weird because he turned out to be a serial killer. He would peek through people's windows when they were looking at night. He'd want to steal from people as a kid. He was like a child during all of this. So it's kind of weird to think about, because early on he started showing these signs. He was 5 when he started showing his interest in knives, or 8 or something like that. So he was really young. So now I'm going to begin talking about his active killing years, or his killing spree that he went on. So when Bundy was captured, finally, he only admitted to killing 36 women, but that number is most likely not accurate. He went over several different states, killed women all over the states in America. There's no way he only killed 36 of them. So officials think he murdered over 100 women, which I also personally believe, because there's no way he only murdered 36 when it was all over the world, because he was a strong man. He was strong, he was charming, he was out there. He definitely murdered more than just 36 women. Before I start going into some of the murders that he did, I want to give a trigger warning right here. This is your trigger warning. Stop if you're triggered by the topic of rape or murder. Please click off. Either watch one of my old videos, I have 2 other videos you can watch, or just watch something else, because this could be very triggering for you. Or watch it with someone you trust, someone that knows what you've been through, someone that knows you could be triggered by this. So Johnny Lenz was his earliest known attack. He attacked her on January 4th, 1974. He raped her with a bedpost, but fortunately, and thank goodness, she got away. You can see her pictures on the internet. She's very old now, because this was 1974. She was around her 20s in 1974, but fortunately she got away. However, Linda Ann Healy was his first murder, official murder. She was his fellow student in university. He murdered her in February 1st, 1974, so almost a month away from his first known attack. And she unfortunately did pass away. He murdered her, and she trailed a bunch of different murders after her. So she basically started the whole thing. So slowly but surely, many more women started to disappear, one after the other, in the area where Ted Bundy was living, while he was dating his girlfriend of 5 years at the time, who, by the way, has an interview out talking about the experience of dating him and not knowing that he was a serial killer. So I'm gonna link that down below, and you can check that out either right now or after this video ends, but after this video ends is better. Then, after multiple different murders that he committed, comes a woman that I'm kind of gonna butcher her name because I don't know how to say it, and I'm really sorry, but this is her name right here. Her name is Sautria Skirtensonsis. I think I don't know how to say her name. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. She was one of the few escapes from him who actually saw him and saw his face and knew what he looked like and all that type of stuff. So she was waiting for the bus so she could go to the university that she was studying at the time, and he rose up in his car. Now remember, I mentioned Ted was really, really attractive, so like women were genuinely like very attracted to him back then. You'd see him walking on the street, they'd be attracted to him. So when he rolled up, she didn't think much of it. He asked if he could take her there. She accepted because it was really hot, the bus wasn't coming, and he was like, he told her that he was coming from a street really far away and there was no bus in sight. So he was like, come on, I'll take you to where you want to go and we'll all be good. So she got in the car, not even questioning whether he was a murderer or not. And almost immediately, he starts screaming at her, telling her she's not going to get where she wants to get because he's going to murder her first, pulling out stuff that he could hit her with and kill her with. Then he stops for a second and looks at her, and he asks her to take off her hat. So she does, because she was afraid, she was crying, she was pleading for her life, and he yells at her for cutting her hair. Now remember when I told you long brown hair or long dark hair was a really important factor in our story? She cut her hair, and because she did that, he took her wherever she wanted to go, dropped her off, and left. He only murders women with long dark hair. Her hair was short. He doesn't want her anymore. There's actually an interview with this woman that I'm also going to link down below that you can also check out after this video ends. I think it's weird that he just dropped her off wherever she wanted to go just because she had short hair. But thank goodness she escaped that, and she was actually the first person to report him, I'm guessing, and that's when they drew a sketch of him. But she pulled out a picture of him. They were showing her pictures of potential suspects, and she thought he was too old between the pictures, and that's why they didn't catch him at the time. It's a weird story. Now I think it's important to mention that most of his beginning victims were people that went to his university, so people that he personally knew and stalked beforehand, and he pretty much raped the majority of his victims. And he would usually dump their body somewhere in a forest or bury their body. And actually, when he admitted to his 36 killings, he told a couple of the police officers where a couple of the bodies were. Some of them weren't recovered or ever found. But in Roberta Kathleen Parks's situation, she was his first victim in Oregon, and he captured her around her dorm room area, and her friends found it really weird that she disappeared because she was a really happy person, so she wouldn't have ran away, she wouldn't have committed suicide. Later, they found her skull in a forest nearby. So you can tell how brutal and how ruthless this man really was. Another amazing woman I want to mention is Carol Durange, who is another person who escaped the hands of Ted Bundy. He came up to her in a car, told her he was a police officer and that someone had broken into her car, and she needed to get in his car really quickly so she can go to the police station. But he claimed that his car was under maintenance. That's why he was using his own car, which by the way was a Volkswagen, one of the ways they got to him and they found him is knowing his car. She got in his car. She started noticing him acting really sketchy and stuff like that, and she didn't like him. So he pulls out handcuffs, puts her in handcuffs, and attempting to beat her, she opens the door behind her while her hands are in handcuffs and runs till she finds people and she reports him. She is actually featured in the Netflix series Confessions of a Killer, Ted Bundy tapes, which, by the way, 100% recommend. They are so cool to listen and to look at the people who had actual encounters with him. So you should totally go watch that after you're done. So cool. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about Carol Durange because she is an amazing, strong woman who got to escape the hands of the evil Ted Bundy. So now I'm going to talk about the general idea of how he was caught, because he was actually caught and imprisoned multiple different times. In the fall of 1974, he was pulled over by a policeman and got a car check. They noticed a lot of sketchy things in his car, like a ski mask or like a face mask that usually robbers use. Things he can potentially hurt people with, handcuffs, all that type of stuff. But they pushed it and brushed it off to the side, and he was never arrested, but he did become a prime suspect of the murders that were happening. In 1975, after Carol Durange escaped him, she reported him, and he was arrested for the kidnapping. Then he was moved to a different jail cell where he was charged for the murder of another woman. But then he escaped prison twice and eventually pleaded guilty and was released, which is kind of stupid because don't you do a background check on your murderers? His last victim was Kimberly Diane Leach, who was also his youngest victim. She was 12 years old, and he killed her while attacking 4 different women. And the way that they figured out it was him was on the bite marks of one of the women. So not only did he attack 4 women, kill their youngest, but he also bit them. Psychopath? He's a literal psychopath. Like, I don't even get it. His trial was really, really long. It went all the way from 1978 to 1989. He was in a complete trial. But that's when his popularity started to rise and he was starting to get noticed by media, by people all over the world. He started to develop actual fans and fan bases who would risk anything for him, who would fight for him so he wouldn't get executed or go to jail, because of his great looks and his charm. Because even during his trial, he was always laughing, charming, flirting with all the people. But in between the different trials he had to go through, he got to live a somewhat normal life. He even got married. Yes, he got married. In 1980, he married a woman called Carol Ann Boone that gave birth to their daughter, Rose, in 1982, though not much is known about her now. At the time, Carol did not realize or believe that he was even related to the murders that happened. But when she found out, she divorced him 3 years before his execution and stopped visiting him in jail the last 2 years before his execution. But he got married, he had a kid, he lived his life. I feel like it's weird. Cause like, girl, like if he's a suspect, he's a legit suspect. Like people actually think he murdered people. I don't think you should trust him and marry him. Although the women that dated him did say he was a very big romantic and he was charming and he was nice and he was so trusting and trustworthy. So I guess I understand where she came from, but that was a big mistake. Although nothing happened to her. She came out alive of this, so. And now finally, I'm going to be talking about his execution. Bundy was executed January 24th, 1989 at approximately 7 a.m. publicly on an electric chair named Old Sparky. The crowds were cheering as he was executed. There were fireworks that were set off after he passed. I heard that he was smiling when he passed, which was kind of weird. After that, he was cremated in Greenville, and he requested that his ashes be scattered in the Cascade Mountains of Washington, where he murdered at least 4 of his victims. Yes, he got to request where his ashes were going to be spread because no one was going to claim them. He knew that. So he just requested they get scattered, and they were in the Cascade Mountains of Washington. So if you visit there, Ted Bundy will visit you. No, he won't. I'm kidding. His last words were, "Give my love to my friends and family." Kind of weird. But famous words that people think of as his last were, "I don't feel guilty for anything. I feel sorry for people who feel guilt." That was the Ted Bundy story. He's a very peculiar yet smart man. Like, you can tell he was smart by how he murdered people and didn't get caught for multiple years. I don't know. I'm so fascinated by his story. I wanted to talk about his story because I never found anyone that told his entire lifeline. Although if there is, tell me in the comments because I want to watch those. I'm so interested in Ted Bundy and his stories. Hope you enjoyed this video for today. I was really excited about this one and I really wanted to film it. I'm sorry if it's a little long, but I love the Ted Bundy stories. Anyways, you should follow me on Instagram. That's at @hmaya__, and my TikTok, which is at Horrorjabi. We got to 200k on my TikTok, which is amazing. I'm so grateful for everything. And yeah, that was my video for today. You should subscribe, like this video, and comment down below your favorite Ted Bundy theory and a video I should film for next week. So thank you for watching. Bye guys.